Hello, I'm Jashikins, and welcome to another episode of Jash Reads. Guess what? This is actually taking place during the daytime. I have actually managed to film during the daytime again. For I think a few weeks, it just felt like no matter what I did, something would stop me from filming early. So, sorry about that. Uh, Now that seems to be over, so let's go reading more of Animorphs number 9, The Secret by K.A. Applegate. And now the song from the beginning of Pretty Little Liars is like playing in my head. One or two of you might get that joke. It's not funny though. Not worth it. Okay, I think we've answered the question about whether that's just an ordinary logging camp. Marco said. We had reached the far edge of the forest, back close to my farm. Marco and I had demorphed. Rachel and Jake flew down and joined us. Tobias took up a perch on a low branch. Axe stood nearby. His two stalk eyes moved continuously, side to side, peering into the dark woods around us. His two main eyes met mine. And I know that's early, but yeah, I am awesome. Anyways, his two main eyes met my gaze. By the way, thanks, Axe, I said. Yeah, no kidding, Marco added. I was spam back there. That tail blade of yours is something. I should have spotted the nets up in the treetops. Axe berated himself. I had detected the force field and I suspected there were Dracon beams in the upper windows. But the nets were so primitive I overlooked them. Axe, like all Andalites, has no spoken speech. Probably because they have no mouths. Thought speak is his natural language. Up close, he looks like a cross between a deer or a horse, and a human and a scorpion. Sort of like a mythical centaur. His upper body is like a boy's. He has weak looking arms and a head with two movable stalks on top. Kind of like antlers. Each stalk has an eye. The eyes are constantly looking left and right and back. Handlights are very hard to sneak up on. His body is covered in blue and tan fur. Very short on his humanoid torso, a bit longer on his deer-like body. His forehooves are sharp and black. But it's the tail that grabs your attention. It's long enough that he can whip it up over his head and hit someone standing in front of him. It ends in a curved blade. None of us saw the nets, Jake pointed out. They must have been well concealed. The point is, they were waiting for us, Marco said. This is definitely a Yeerk operation. I don't think they really want to go into the lumberjack business, which means this whole thing is about getting us. Agreed, Rachel said tersely. They think we're Andalites. They know we've been hurting them all around this area. They've decided we must be hiding in these woods. They're almost right, Jake pointed out. Axe and Tobias both do live in the forest. and we do use the forest. You know, we're not the only thing going on here, I said. They all looked puzzled. I took a deep breath. I mean, this forest is important even if Tobias and Axe weren't here. It makes me sick to think of people chopping down all these trees. Oh, please! Not the Earth Mother thing, okay? Marco said. I almost got myself fried by a Dracon beam. That wasn't to save Bambi, alright? Look, Marco, we are not the only animals around. We, of all people, ought to understand that. Cassie, who cares? We're fighting to save the world from the Yeerks. Who cares about some ecological, tree-hugging, recycle your canned stuff? I do, I said. Well, that's you, Marco said. Personally, what I care about is the fact that a bunch of Yeerks have that fortress back there, and they're going to use it to tear up these woods looking for us. I started to say something back when Jake held up his hand. It seems to me it doesn't matter whether we have slightly different ideas about why we care. I mean, either way, we want to stop this from going on, right? He looked at Marco, then at me. I was annoyed with Jake right then. I mean, I understand that he has to consider everyone's ideas equally. But still, it was like he was agreeing with Marco that it didn't matter if the forest was wiped out, as long as we survived. I turned to Rachel for support, but she found something to look at down on the ground. Oh, great, I thought. Even Rachel thinks I'm wrong. The important thing is we have to stop them, Tobias said. And how exactly do we do that? Marco asked. That place is the Fortress of Doom. Knock it down? Blow it up? Rachel mused. Grab some of that heavy equipment they have and run it into the place? Marco suggested. We don't have the benefit of surprise. They know we're coming. They know sooner or later we're going to go after them. The heavy equipment would be useless, Axe said. That building is surrounded by force field. The equipment would not penetrate it. Neither would we. We would be stopped by the force field and then cut to pieces by the Dracon beams. Rachel's lips pressed into a thin line. So we just give up? That's the plan? We let them go chopping through the woods till they find you, Axe, or Tobias? Axe didn't have an answer. I wouldn't want to sound like some stupid ecological nut or anything, I said sarcastically. But the question is, how did the Yeerks ever get permission to start logging in a national forest? Why is that helpful? Marco asked, even more sarcastically. Because sometimes, Marco, there are more subtle ways of doing things. The Yeerks don't control the entire government. Not yet, anyway. So they had to get legal permission. If they didn't have permission, they'd have cops and federal agents and TV newspapers all over them. They don't want that. Marco looked like he had some smart reply to make. Then he said, "Oh." Jake cocked an eyebrow at his best friend. "See, Marco, this is why Cassie is a nicer person than you. She could have said, 'They don't want that.' Duh." Marco grinned, despite himself. Jake winked at me, and I forgave him for acting like Marco was right before. "What do you think we should do?" I shrugged. I hate having to think of things that might end up getting people hurt or killed. I guess, I mean, uh, okay, okay, look, the Yeerks must have gotten to someone. They must have one of their controllers in some kind of high position. We need to find out who. And how do we do that? Tobias asked. I guess I looked at Jake for help. I knew the answer. I just didn't want to say it. See, when we make plans, we tend to end up in terrible danger later on. We have to get inside that building, Jake said for me. I nodded. The least I could do was agree. Rachel shook her head. I don't know an animal big enough to force a way inside that place. Not big, I said. Small. Very small. And that's the end of that chapter. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, hang on. Before I do the post-chapter thingamajig, I need to drink some. Most of the day I drink water, and every now and again I give myself a little treat. So yeah. Oh god. Sorry, I thought the camera showed me having something near my eye, and I'm like, no, everything's good. I love Cassie. I love her. I like her. I think she is one of the most underappreciated characters in the series, but why would she start making some ecological argument? I mean, it to me it doesn't really make sense. It's like, okay, why are you arguing about that now? I can get behind her keeping on bringing up, hey, how did the Yeerks get permission to log here? Because that's actually a very clever thing to sort of figure out, like, hey, it's clever and obvious. It's like, hey guys, we're looking at the big picture here. We need to start looking at the smaller picture. So I totally agree with that. Because it's like, they obviously can't just storm the place, so they have to, figure something else out, some other way to hurt the Yeerks and stop them. But the whole argument of, hey, let me start arguing about the environment now, even though, yeah. But I do agree with Cassie more than Marco and Rachel after the argument has begun, because as we saw from the fourth book, the Yeerks will destroy the whole planet if they don't stop them. They'll only allow creatures that they can infest or use to live and survive, and everything else dies. So the Animorphs aren't just fighting for humanity, they're fighting for the entire world, everything that lives on Earth. So I do agree with her about that, and Mark was like, I don't care. It's just like, we're not just fighting for the human race, we're fighting for an entire planet. But I just don't like how that conversation started. It's like, so, to me, it was like so wildly out of place. But yeah. So, what do you think? What do you think about how that argument started? And once the argument began, did you side more with Marco or Cassie? And please explain your reasons down below. And also, comment anything else you found interesting about this chapter, that maybe you want my opinions on a certain thing, and I just realized I didn't put my necklace back on. Well, that's awkward. But remember, no major spoilers. I am hoping against hope that people are brought into the Animorphs fandom via these videos. So, yeah. And remember, if you're on the YouTubes, please give this video a thumbs up because I'm awesome. And also remember to subscribe. I will be reading not just this entire book, but the entire Animorphs series. So you really don't want to miss a thing because this really is an amazing, really underrated series. And also, if you're on my Bloggity blog and on the desktop version of my Bloggity blog, please choose the follow by email option, which is somewhere over this. Somewhere. And so you don't miss anything I do. I just don't do these dramatic readings. I do long reviews, mini reviews, fanfics, and a bunch of other stuff. Later on this week on Saturday, there will be a new long post released, and also on October 31st, there will be an original short story that I'll release onto my blog. So, don't really want to miss anything there. And until next video, goodbye. Hopefully next video will be Wednesday. Please.